A barb-tipped Kardashian boot was forcefully pressed against Mark Henderson's scruffy chin as he slouched in the dingy space station bar nursing a stiff Arcturian whiskey with chipped fingernails. Fornax, the hulking Kardashian leader, sneered down viciously at the battered and lonely human veteran before him, his alien face twisting with sadistic glee as he prepared to crush Mark's windpipe underneath his grimy boot sole. Mark sat alone in a shadowy corner booth at the very rear of the bustling establishment. An unsavory entourage of extraterrestrial clientele filled the bar's cramped interior. Grizzled mercenaries sharing war stories, leathery-faced spacers chugging moonshine, and scaly reptilian thugs fingering blasters. None paid any mind to the broken old human crumpled silently in the back, lost in his own pained memories and bitter regrets as he stared listlessly into the amber liquid swirling in his smudged glass tumbler. Fornax and 4 burly Kardashian goons swaggered into the bar just moments earlier, their entrance immediately commanding wary attention from the gathered riffraff. Mark didn't even bother looking up as heavy boots stomped nearer until the leading Kardashian's gruff voice growled out loudly for all to hear. Well, look here boys, a human still breathing. Thought we'd wiped out all you pests ages ago." Fornax smirked cruelly, his piggish eyes glinting. "Last I checked, you went extinct after that little tussle we had with your kind. Some skirmish you called the Void War, was it? Pathetic. You lot barely lasted a month against Kardashian might." Several nearby patrons glanced over nervously at the impending confrontation. Humans were a severely endangered species these days, after the near-total genocide perpetrated by the merciless Kardashian war machine. Thorax plodded right up to Mark's table, leering down at the seemingly oblivious man. The battered soldier was the shattered husk of what he used to be before the war had stolen everything and everyone dear to him. Losing Arya, his fiery Valkyrie of a lover, had sucked the last shreds of light from Mark's soul. Without her fire, he was just a withered, drifting ghost waiting to die. The lead Kardashian slammed a meaty fist on the table, sloshing acrid whiskey across its scratched surface. Mark didn't flinch, his hollow eyes never leaving the glass clenched between his calloused fingers. "I'm speaking to you, monkey. It's rude to ignore your betters, don't you think? Maybe we should teach you some manners, eh?" Thorax's tone was low and menacing. For the span of 5 slow heartbeats, Mark remained deathly still and utterly silent. Then, with painful creaking slowness, the grizzled veteran raised his head to appraise the hulking aliens looming before him. His eyes were pure ice as he rasped in a gravelly whisper, "Go away. I'm not looking for trouble tonight." Thorax threw back his head and laughed, the sound ugly and mocking. "Trouble? You don't know the meaning of trouble, primate. Not yet." The Kardashians suddenly seized Mark by the collar, effortlessly hefting the unresisting man high into the air. Hooting and cheering erupted from the watching crowd as the showdown escalated. Without Arya, nothing had meaning anymore. Mark knew this was where his lonely, bitter journey would finally end. Part of him welcomed the coming darkness. But then, like a stroke of divine light from the heavens, a painfully familiar voice rang out above the roaring din, freezing Mark's heart dead in his chest. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be. And yet, put him down. The voice, her voice, cracked like a plasma whip, silencing the clamoring bar into a state of shock. Thorax went rigid, Mark's collar still clenched in his giant fist. The Kardashian's murderous eyes snapped towards the bar's entrance. There, framed in the circular doorway with ethereal light haloing her athletic silhouette, stood Arya. Mark's Arya, his lover, his angel, his reason for being. The woman he'd thought dead for over a decade. Her piercing eyes flashed dangerously as she leveled a military-grade pulse rifle at Thorax's scaly head. The watching crowd collectively gasped. Thorax's slack-jawed soldiers fumbled for their blasters. Too late. "I won't repeat myself, slag sucker. Drop him now." Arya's words were edged in hardened Duri steel, brokering no argument. Mark could only gape in wide-eyed awe, not quite believing his own senses as the love of his existence. His beautiful, fierce, indomitable warrior woman stepped into the bar, returning from the grave to rescue his doomed soul. He had been loveless and lonely, drifting towards death without purpose, until she saw the human, her human. Nothing in the galaxy would stop Arya from saving the man she loved, not even Thorax and his lackeys. Arya's eyes softened infinitesimally as they briefly met Mark's disbelieving stare. A promise passed between them in that split second. Never again. Her gaze swore she would never leave him alone and desolate a second time. Even if it took her last dying breath, Arya would save her man. The Kardashians didn't stand a chance in Tartha. The real war was about to begin. The tension in the bar reached a fever pitch as Thorax and his Kardashian thugs closed in menacingly on the lone human. Their eyes glinted with cruel anticipation for the beating to come. The other patrons, seeing the violence about to unfold, quickly collected their drinks and scurried out the doors. None wanted to risk becoming collateral damage in the impending brawl between the burly aliens and the battle-hardened human soldier. In a moment, the bar was emptied of all save Mark, the Kardashians, and Arya. Still standing firm in the doorway, her rifle trained unwaveringly on Thorax's ugly head. A deafening silence engulfed the room, the calm before the storm. Mark rose to his feet, his chair scraping across the floor with an ominous screech that echoed off the bar's dingy walls. He squared his shoulders and faced his alien adversaries head-on. His eyes flicked from thug to thug, coldly assessing their strengths and weaknesses, cataloging weapons and exposed vulnerabilities with a seasoned warrior's knowing gaze. Part of Mark, the shattered, listless part that had died with Arya all those years ago, wished for nothing more than to leave this life of blood and violence behind, to finally lay down his guns and rest. But a deeper, older part of him, the part forged in the unending Void War, tempered in the hellish crucible of watching his species burn, stirred to fiery life at the Kardashians' goading. A decade of grief, rage, and bitter loss reignited into an inferno in his veins. Thorax threw the first punch, a meaty fist hurtling straight at Mark's grizzled face. But the old soldier was no longer there. Mark slid around the blow with preternatural speed, his body moving on instinct ingrained by a lifetime of constant warfare. As he dodged, he snapped out a lightning-fast kick that caught Thorax hard in the gut. The Kardashian folded like a spent ration pack, wheezing. Then the brawl erupted in earnest. Mark became a whirlwind of deadly motion, his hands and feet lashing out with brutal efficiency. He moved with the lethal grace of a dancer, every strike perfectly placed to inflict maximum damage. Bones crunched, scales split, Kardashian blood splattered the floor. But Mark was only one man against five. Even with Arya's rifle picking off any alien stupid enough to present her with a clear shot, the odds were badly stacked. Thorax and his boys quickly regrouped and pressed their advantage of numbers. Clawed fists and clubs hammered at Mark from all sides. He ducked and wove between the blows, turning his attackers' strength against them, sending them crashing into tables and smashing through chairs with their own momentum. But he couldn't dodge them all. A jagged bottle caught Mark across the face, opening a deep gash along his cheek. A booted foot cracked against his knee, sending hot shards of agony lancing up his leg. He stumbled, going down to one knee. The Kardashians howled in bloodthirsty glee. They had the human now. Mark surged back to his feet with a roar just as a shrill klaxon split the air, freezing the combatants in their tracks. The station's security forces, drawn by the sounds of violent brawling, were closing in fast. Heavy boots pounded down the corridor outside. Mark cursed under his breath. This content may violate our usage policies. Did we get it wrong? Please tell us by giving this response a thumbs down. Mark exchanged a quick glance with Arya. They both knew they couldn't afford to get entangled with the station's security forces. The Kardashians might have been momentarily distracted, but they would regroup quickly. Mark nodded subtly, and Arya understood immediately. They needed to get out of there, fast. A desperate escape. Arya fired a few well-placed shots to keep the Kardashians at bay, then grabbed Mark by the arm and pulled him towards a narrow back door, hidden behind the bar. The two of them slipped through just as the station's security forces burst in, weapons drawn. The sounds of shouts and scuffling were cut off as the door closed behind them, leaving Mark and Arya in a dimly lit maintenance corridor. They sprinted down the corridor, their footsteps echoing off the metal walls. Mark's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Arya was alive. How was it possible? He had so many questions, but now was not the time. They needed to put as much distance between themselves and the Kardashians as possible. "This way," Arya whispered, leading him through a maze of winding passages and maintenance tunnels. After what felt like an eternity of running, they finally emerged into a small, hidden alcove deep within the station's underbelly. Arya quickly sealed the entrance behind them, activating an electronic lock that would deter any pursuers. She turned to face Mark, her chest heaving from the exertion. For a moment, they just stared at each other, the weight of the past decade hanging heavily between them. Mark reached out hesitantly, his fingers brushing against Arya's cheek. She felt real, solid, alive. Tears filled his eyes as he whispered, "I thought I'd lost you forever." Arya's own eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I know, Mark. I thought I'd never see you again either. But I'm here now, and we have to stay alive." Mark nodded, swallowing hard. "What happened to you? How did you survive?" Arya took a deep breath, her expression hardening as she recounted her tale. "After the Void War, I was captured by the Kardashians. They thought I was dead, but I managed to escape during a raid on one of their prison camps. I've been laying low ever since, gathering intel, waiting for the right moment to strike back." Mark listened in awe. Arya had always been a fighter, but her resilience and determination were beyond anything he had imagined. Arya's voice took on a steely resolve. "We can't let them win, Mark. The Kardashians have to pay for what they've done to our people. We need to find others like us, those who survived, and organize a resistance." Mark felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. For the first time in years, he had a purpose, a reason to fight. "I'm with you, Arya. Whatever it takes, we'll make them pay." Over the next few weeks, Mark and Arya worked tirelessly to gather allies. They reached out to old contacts, scoured the station for other survivors, and spread the word of their cause. Slowly but surely, they began to build a small but determined group of fighters, each one with their own reasons for wanting to take down the Kardashian regime. Mark took on the role of training their newfound allies, sharing his extensive combat experience and teaching them how to fight back against their oppressors. Arya focused on gathering intelligence, using her skills to uncover the Kardashians' plans and weaknesses. Together, they forged a bond of trust and camaraderie among their group, turning them into a formidable force. With their numbers growing and their skills honed, Mark and Arya knew it was time to strike. They devised a plan to take down a major Kardashian outpost, a critical supply hub that would cripple their enemies' operations in the sector. It was a risky move, but the potential rewards were too great to ignore. They couldn't afford to fail. On the eve of the attack, Mark and Arya found a moment of quiet amidst the chaos of preparations. They sat together, the weight of their mission heavy on their shoulders. "Whatever happens tomorrow," Mark said softly, "I'm glad we found each other again." Arya smiled, her eyes filled with determination and love. "We'll make it through this, Mark. And when we do, we'll have a future worth fighting for." The next morning, under the cover of darkness, their group moved into position around the Kardashian outpost. Tension hung thick in the air as they waited for the signal to attack. Mark's heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline coursing through his veins. This was it, their chance to strike a blow against their enemies and begin the fight for their people's survival. When the signal came, chaos erupted. Explosions rocked the outpost as Mark and Arya's group launched their assault. Blaster fire illuminated the darkness, and the sounds of combat filled the air. Mark led his team with precision and skill, cutting down Kardashian soldiers and pushing forward with relentless determination. Arya's sharp eyes and quick reflexes kept them one step ahead of their enemies, guiding them through the chaos. Despite fierce resistance, Mark and Arya's group began to gain the upper hand. Their coordinated attacks and unwavering resolve started to turn the tide of the battle. The Kardashians, caught off guard by the ferocity and determination of their attackers, began to falter. Victory seemed within reach, but the fight was far from over. As the battle raged on, Arya spotted a critical vulnerability in the Kardashian defenses. She knew that exploiting it could turn the tide decisively in their favor, but it would require a risky maneuver. "Mark, we need to take out that command center," she shouted over the din of battle. If we can disable their communications, we can cripple their coordination. Mark nodded, understanding the importance of the gamble. I'll lead a team, he said, rallying a group of their best fighters. We need to move fast and hit them hard. With Arya providing cover fire, Mark and his team charged towards the command center, their determination unwavering despite the dangers they faced. The battle at the command center was intense, with Kardashian soldiers throwing everything they had at Mark and his team. But the human fighters pressed on, their resolve unbreakable. Mark fought with the strength of a man who had nothing left to lose, his every move fueled by the desire to see his people free. Finally, they reached the heart of the command center, planting explosive charges that would bring the entire structure down. As the charges detonated and the command center crumbled, the Kardashian forces fell into disarray. With their communications severed and their leadership in shambles, the remaining soldiers quickly surrendered or fled. Mark and Arya's group emerged victorious, their first major victory against their oppressors. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. In the aftermath of the battle, Mark and Arya stood together, surveying the wreckage of the outpost. Their victory had come at a cost, but it was a crucial step in their fight for freedom. "This is just the beginning," Arya said, her voice filled with determination. "We have a long road ahead, but we will rebuild, and we will fight for our future." Word of their victory spread quickly, inspiring others to join their cause. Mark and Arya's group grew in numbers and strength, rallying more survivors and resistance fighters to their side. They continued to strike at key Kardashian targets, disrupting their operations and weakening their hold on the sector. As the resistance grew, so did the challenges they faced. The Kardashians were a formidable enemy, and their retaliation was swift and brutal. But Mark and Arya's resolve never wavered. Together, they led their people with unwavering determination, driven by the hope of a future free from oppression. The road ahead was long and perilous, but they knew that with each step, they were one step closer to reclaiming their world. The resistance had gained momentum, but Mark and Arya knew they couldn't sustain the fight alone. They needed more allies. They began reaching out to other factions across the galaxy, groups that had suffered under Kardashian rule and might be willing to join their cause. It was a risky move, but one that could tip the balance in their favor. Mark and Arya embarked on a diplomatic mission to the distant planet of Alera, home to a powerful and technologically advanced species known as the Ellerans. The Ellerans had remained neutral in the conflict, but Mark hoped to persuade them to join the resistance. The journey was fraught with danger, as Kardashian patrols scoured the galaxy for any sign of rebellion. Upon arrival, Mark and Arya were granted an audience with the Elleran High Council. The council chamber was an awe-inspiring sight, filled with shimmering crystals and advanced technology. Mark made a passionate plea for their support, detailing the atrocities committed by the Kardashians and the desperate need for allies. The Elleran Council listened intently, their expressions unreadable. After hours of deliberation, the Elleran Council made an unexpected offer. They would join the resistance, but only if Mark and Arya could prove their worth by completing a perilous mission: infiltrating a heavily fortified Kardashian facility to retrieve critical data on a new weapon the Kardashians were developing. It was a daunting task, but Mark and Arya accepted without hesitation. Mark and Arya assembled a small team of their best fighters and set out for the Kardashian facility. The infiltration was meticulously planned, with every detail accounted for. They navigated through treacherous terrain, avoiding patrols and security systems. The tension was palpable as they approached the facility, knowing that discovery would mean certain death. Once inside the facility, Mark and his team moved with precision, disabling security measures and neutralizing guards. Arya's expertise in hacking proved invaluable as she accessed the facility's mainframe and located the data they needed. But as they downloaded the information, an alarm sounded and the facility was thrown into chaos. With the facility on high alert, Mark and his team fought their way out, battling waves of Kardashian soldiers. The mission hung in the balance as they faced overwhelming odds. Mark's leadership and Arya's quick thinking kept them one step ahead of their pursuers. They barely managed to escape, the facility exploding in a fiery inferno behind them. Back on Alera, the data they retrieved revealed the terrifying nature of the Kardashians' new weapon, a planet-killing superweapon capable of wiping out entire worlds. The Ellerin Council, horrified by the discovery, pledged their full support to the resistance. Mark and Arya's daring mission had not only secured a powerful ally but also provided crucial intelligence. With the Ellerins on their side, the resistance began to forge alliances with other factions across the galaxy. Each new ally brought unique strengths and resources, bolstering their fight against the Kardashians. Mark and Arya worked tirelessly to unite these diverse groups, fostering a sense of unity and purpose. As the coalition grew stronger, the Kardashians responded with increased ferocity. They deployed their new superweapon against a rebel-held planet, annihilating millions of innocent lives. The horror of the attack galvanized the resistance, fueling their determination to bring down the Kardashian regime once and for all. The resistance began preparations for a final, decisive battle against the Kardashian stronghold. Mark and Arya knew that this would be their last chance to end the tyranny that had plagued their galaxy. They trained relentlessly, honing their skills and developing strategies to counter the Kardashians' formidable defenses. Mark and Arya traveled across the galaxy, rallying their allies and gathering forces for the impending battle. The coalition's fleet grew larger each day, a testament to the widespread desire for freedom. The final confrontation was approaching, and the stakes had never been higher. In the days leading up to the battle, Mark and Arya took a moment to reflect on how far they had come. They had faced unimaginable challenges and suffered great losses, but they had also found hope and resilience in each other. Their bond had only grown stronger, and they knew they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The Coalition's fleet arrived at the Kardashian stronghold, a massive space station fortified with the most advanced defenses. The battle began with a barrage of laser fire and explosions. The skies lit up with the ferocity of the conflict. Mark led his team into the heart of the enemy stronghold, determined to disable the superweapon and bring down the Kardashian regime. Deep within the stronghold, Mark and Arya faced off against the Kardashian leader, Ruthless and cunning commander. The battle was fierce and unforgiving, each side fighting with everything they had. Mark's determination and Arya's strategic brilliance proved to be the deciding factors, and they finally overpowered the Kardashian leader. With the Kardashian leader defeated and the superweapon destroyed, the tide of battle turned in favor of the coalition. The remaining Kardashian forces surrendered, and the galaxy erupted in celebration. The long night of oppression was over, and a new dawn of freedom had begun. In the aftermath of their victory, Mark and Arya turned their attention to rebuilding the galaxy. They worked tirelessly to restore order and justice, ensuring that the atrocities committed by the Kardashians would never be repeated. Their efforts were met with gratitude and admiration from countless worlds. As peace and prosperity began to take root, Mark and Arya found themselves at the forefront of a new era. They had become symbols of hope and resilience, their names synonymous with the fight for freedom. Together, they led the efforts to rebuild and heal the galaxy, creating a future where all beings could live in peace. Years later, as they stood on the balcony of their new home, Mark and Arya reflected on their journey. They had faced unimaginable hardships and overcome insurmountable odds, but they had emerged stronger and more united than ever. Their love had been a beacon of hope, guiding them through the darkest times. Mark and Arya's legacy lived on, inspiring future generations to stand up against tyranny and fight for justice. Their story became a legend, a testament to the power of courage, love, and resilience. The galaxy they had fought so hard to save flourished, a lasting tribute to their unyielding spirit. As they looked out at the stars, Mark and Arya knew that their journey had been worth every sacrifice. They had given their people the greatest gift of all, hope. And with that hope, they knew that the future would be bright, filled with endless possibilities and boundless opportunities for all. The galaxy had been liberated, and the diverse coalition of species that had fought together now gathered to celebrate their hard-won freedom. A grand celebration was planned on the neutral planet of Alicia, renowned for its breathtaking landscapes and vibrant cultures. Delegations from every corner of the galaxy arrived, bringing with them their unique traditions and stories of resilience. At the heart of the celebration, a monument was unveiled to honor the heroes of the resistance. It was a towering structure, crafted from materials donated by each allied planet, symbolizing the unity and strength that had defeated the Kardashian regime. Mark and Arya stood at the forefront, their names etched in the monument, alongside those of their fallen comrades. Mark addressed the assembled crowd, his voice carrying the weight of their shared struggle and triumph. He spoke of the importance of unity, justice, and the relentless pursuit of peace. Arya joined him, her words a call to action to protect the fragile peace they had achieved and to ensure that future generations would never face the same oppression in the months that followed. The coalition transitioned from a wartime alliance to a governing body, the Galactic Council. Representatives from each allied planet worked together to create policies that promoted peace, cooperation, and mutual respect. Trade routes were reopened, scientific collaborations flourished, and cultural exchanges strengthened the bonds between worlds. With the galaxy stabilizing, Mark and Arya finally had a chance to focus on their personal lives. They explored new planets, relishing the beauty and diversity of the galaxy they had fought so hard to save. Their love deepened as they experienced new adventures together, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. Years passed, and the galaxy entered an era of unprecedented peace and prosperity. Mark and Arya, now revered as legends, continued to serve as advisors to the Galactic Council. Their wisdom and experience guided the galaxy through challenges and opportunities, ensuring that the ideals they had fought for remained at the forefront of governance. Mark and Arya established the Foundation of Hope, an organization dedicated to supporting war-torn planets and fostering young leaders committed to justice and peace. The Foundation's influence spread across the galaxy, helping to rebuild communities and inspire a new generation to uphold the values of unity and freedom. On the anniversary of their victory, Mark and Arya returned to Alicia. Standing before the monument, they reflected on their incredible journey. The galaxy had changed, and so had they. They had faced unimaginable odds and emerged victorious, their love and determination lighting the way for countless others. As they watched a new generation take up the mantle of leadership, Mark and Arya felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The galaxy was in good hands, and their dream of a peaceful, united galaxy was becoming a reality. They knew their journey had been worth every sacrifice, and they looked forward to a future filled with endless possibilities. Years turned into decades, and Mark and Arya's legacy continued to inspire. They spent their twilight years in the serene landscapes of Alicia, surrounded by friends and family. Their story was told and retold, a timeless tale of courage, love, and resilience. One peaceful evening, as the sun set over the horizon, Mark and Arya held hands and gazed at the stars, knowing that their love and the peace they had fought for would endure long after they were gone. Their journey had come full circle, and they found comfort in knowing that they had made a lasting difference. In the annals of galactic history, the names of Mark and Arya would forever be remembered, a beacon of hope and a testament to the power of unity and love. And so, the galaxy thrived, guided by the ideals they had championed, moving ever forward into a future of light and promise. After their success